So if you look around the world, there's a lot of people experiencing increasing levels of anxiety, stress and depression. And when you look at the world we're in at the moment, it's almost entirely understandable. We're creating this hyper-distracted culture.
Kadam Adam Starr, your resident teacher at the Tara Kadampa Meditation Centre in Dublin.
We all need to be happier. Yeah, but how? Do we have to wait till we have a mental health crisis and then see a psychologist or therapist? Or can we be our own therapist on a daily basis?
This is a GK Media podcast. Kadam Adam Starr, thank you so much for coming back into studio here in Galway to join me on Garry Talks. It's almost a year ago when we recorded the last podcast, episode 50, Wisdom, Compassion and Nutella. And we got a great reaction to it. You'd be delighted to know. It's actually one of our most popular episodes in the podcast series. And even I was listening to it recently to make sure I'm not repeating the same questions today again with you. But I can see why, because anyone can listen to it and get so much from it for themselves, no matter what walk of life they're going through at the moment. Like, have you gotten much of a reaction from podcasts that you've done in the last year or so?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is that theme, and especially the podcast with you. A lot of people have fed back that to me, that they just found it so useful and practical. And somebody said to me, it's easy to share with family.
Yeah.
You know, who, as you say, may have no particular knowledge of meditation and the topics we discussed, but they can access it at some level that makes it really practical in their daily life. And also, it was a joy just catching up with you. So I'm delighted to be back.
And I did say to you at the end of the podcast the last time that I would go and practice some meditation. And when we met in January, you said, how's that going? And I said, yeah, I'm getting there. So what I was thinking, what could be really good is at the end of this episode, if you don't mind, maybe just doing a 10-minute meditation session. So for the listeners or for those watching the video here, that they can, if they haven't done it before, that they can get a feel for it and maybe do it a few times during the week for themselves. And that'll hopefully give them the nudge to take the journey of meditation further for themselves.
Yeah, great idea.
Super.
Totally, yeah.
Thank you.
Happy to do that.
And when I met you in January, it was actually up in where you're resident teacher at the Tara Kadampa Meditation Centre in Dublin. And it's like, there was the huge awe factor when I walked in there, firstly. The place looks absolutely stunning, but there was a massive calmness as well, which I loved about it. Like, I had a long day. I was about 13 hours on the go that day. And I still had to drive back west to Galway, which is about another 2.5 hour drive. So I was tired, but I just didn't want to leave there. It's amazing, the place you have.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. I mean, the team put a lot of work into creating this space, as you remember, that's just super accessible for people. But also there is a certain kind of energy within that meditation space that, yeah, I guess there's you walk into a space like that, and especially if you had a busy day, that kind of decompression happens and you just feel kind of that sense of calmness. And I think, yeah, we do feel very fortunate to have the space, and people seem to love it, and people from all walks of life come in regularly. So we're delighted with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because when you walked outside the front door again, it's traffic everywhere. It was lashing rain. It was dark, neon lights flashing from across the road. Like, it was busy Dublin city centre on like a Thursday evening. And then you go back in and it's tranquil. And
well, I think that's what we're trying to do, is create a place of refuge or a place of peace in the heart of the city where people can just step back, decompress, see life in perspective a little bit through the meditations and the teachings and so forth. But creating an environment that supports that enables people to get to that place was really, the team really very much focused on that and put a lot of energy into and a lot of effort into creating that space so that it's so accessible for everyone then, and you have that refuge in the heart of the city.
When we were there talking in January, I always use January as my point in time to reflect on what I've done for the last 12 months and what I intend to do and focus on for the next 12 months. So, setting my annual goals and so on. And I had a lot of discussion with people in the past couple of weeks around purpose. And a lot of people I had met didn't know what their purpose in life was anymore. And I was talking to you about this. And I don't know if you recall the conversation where you were saying, you have had people who would be regarded as very successful, as people who have made millions, that come into your door at the Tara Kadampa Meditation Centre, but they come in broken, not financially, but spiritually, we could say. And they're wondering what their purpose is. And it's amazing, I think, when you're focusing on goals. And I think if people look inwards, when they focus on their personal goals every year, you know, it might be fitness, it might be health, but it might be a house, it might be a holiday, you know, there might be some kind of financial element to it, financial well-being. And when you see people who are so wealthy, you would expect that they wouldn't have, you know, issues, or they found their purpose or something. But it's just, I was fascinated by the open conversation we had about you saying the people you would come across who were still searching for purpose, despite appearing to be having everything that so many of us want.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember the conversation very well. I always remember conversations with you very well. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really, and when we had that discussion, I remember you saying, "Hey, we should have a chat about that sometime on the pod." And it was to me at the time, you helping me really see like how that actually is actually quite prevalent. And of course, I know that from one perspective, because as I say, I'm seeing people like that all the time. And it's understandable that people feel that way at the moment, but it's really more of a symptom of an underlying problem that we're all struggling with and that we're all suffering from at the moment, I would say. So if you look around the world, there's a lot of people experiencing increasing levels of anxiety and stress and depression. And when you look at the world we're in at the moment, it's almost entirely understandable. We're gradually creating this hyper-distracted culture where our mind is continually going out, focusing out at various different things and, you know, our weapons of mass distraction, our iPhones and so forth. And also we're in this world where there's a lot of chaos at the moment, you know, what's happening in areas of conflict and so forth, and what's happening with the environment. And so underlying all of that, people are struggling. And what I found interesting about this is we're struggling with our mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being at a level that we never have really in the history of humanity, I would say. Again, people can explore that for themselves. Yeah. But we're paying less attention to that inner well-being than we ever have, or that turning in, as you were saying earlier on, turning in and reflecting on your life, mostly because we're focused out. So I think when people, as you say, who are hugely successful externally, you meet them and actually they really feel quite broken internally, it's clearly a symptom that our lives are out of balance. That's all. It's our lives are out of balance, and we can restore a healthy balance over time. But at the moment, what we're seeing is a global problem of our lives being out of balance. Now, what I mean by that is there's the aspect of the external developments of our life, which of course are really important. Like, as you say, your financial resources and your financial security, especially for your family in the future. There are the various different things with our career and our organizations or our companies like you have to run here. There's various different challenges we have with our family and making sure our kids get to university or whatever it is. And then, of course, there's our physical well-being. I would say that's part of that external development or material development, making sure you're healthy so you can have a long and healthy life, hopefully. Yeah. And dialing in your nutrition routines, dialing in your sleep routines, dialing in your exercise routines.
There's a lot in that, though, for people, isn't it? Like, it's a huge weight to be carrying.
But I think that's the challenge, Garry. I think most people, exactly like you say, it's a huge weight to be carrying, especially if all of your energy is going into that external development. What happens as a result of that? Very little focus and attention goes inwards to your own inner development, meaning taking really good care of your mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being, your inner well-being, which really just means how you view yourself, how you feel about yourself, how you view others, how you feel about others, how you view life, how you feel about life. These are all internal things we need to become familiar with or improve continually. And so what's happening is because we're mostly focused out, as you say, it's quite a heavy burden focusing on all this external development. We're not focusing on inner development. And so what happens is you start to feel increasingly burdened by the unhealthy habits of mind or the stress or the anxiety that you're not giving any attention to or gradually becoming free of. And then you experience this increasing stress and anxiety, or maybe feelings of low self-esteem or self-worth at times because you're burdened by all of that. And then no matter how much you accomplish outside, it never feels enough because deep inside, we never feel quite good enough. And so we're constantly pushing and we're constantly striving. So what I would try and encourage everyone, including myself, to do more consistently is just restore a healthy balance. Yes, you need to pay attention to the external aspects of your life, your material development. Of course you do. But we just simply need to find this middle way where we restore a healthy balance or establish any balance between the two, external development and inner development of your heart, development of your mind. Because at the end of the day, the reason why we're putting all that energy out there is because we just want to be happy. That's really basically what everybody wants. It's just to be happy. Yeah. Happiness doesn't come from having more money. Happiness doesn't come from growing your organization and scaling it up. Happiness doesn't come from, just physical well-being. Happiness is an inside job. It comes from the mind. It comes from inner peace or peace of mind. And the only way you can develop and maintain a deep and consistent experience of inner peace or peace of mind if you do that inner work that enables you to maintain that peace of mind over time.
Is that coming then from just acceptance and then gratitude?
Well, they're definitely two important aspects of it, but I would say it's more about this learning to put in place in your life a daily practice, and it is a daily practice, I've got to be honest, of some kind of system whereby you, or methods or practices whereby you can engage in that inner development and that inner reflection. So, as you wouldn't be surprised me to say, I would say meditation is the perfect tool or the perfect method to engage in this inner development, to continually improve your mental, emotional and spiritual well-being, continually improving your sense of compassion for yourself and others, continually cultivating a deeper wisdom in your heart that understands what leads to a truly happy and meaningful and purposeful life. And as you're engaged in this inner practice daily in your meditation session, you then bring that experience to bear on your everyday life. You start to cultivate in meditation qualities like gratitude and the ability to accept difficulties and difficult people and situations. So what happens is, as you learn to develop these qualities of the heart and learn to really transform the mind and the way you see the world and so forth, you start to continually increase your inner peace or peace of mind that enables you to feel more consistently happy no matter what's going on in your day and your life, because you have the wisdom that can understand how to respond to it more wisely, with more resilience. And you have the compassion also for yourself and others to connect with where others are at and where you're at, and to be able to help yourself and others in that way. So
you're less reactive, isn't it?
Much less reactive. You've got the space in your mind. Most people, they think like I'm just this like angry, stressed out, stressed head. They're not really. They're just struggling with not attending to the triggers within their mind that induce stress or anxiety or anger. And because they're not giving any attention to that, generally speaking, they're focused out trying to control the world out there so that I feel less stressed and anxious in here. How are you getting on with that one? Because this world is constantly changing, and that's why people's anxiety and stress is constantly increasing. What we need to do is control how we see things, begin to see things with more wisdom, see ourselves and others with more compassion, so that actually gradually over time you become more free of these tendencies. Again, through this process of inner development, a daily practice of working with the mind, working with the heart, and really beginning to change how you see yourself, others, and life, so that you're actually able to deal with things in a much healthier way.
Like, I've listened to episode 50 a few times, and I always find the more I listen to it, the more I get from it. And one of the things I wish I had kind of woken up to at the time was the fact that, you had spoken about how we spend so much time, well, hopefully exercising. So we're trying to look after the body, we're looking after the nutrition of the body, and we're working and we're doing this. But like the body relies so much on the brain and the mind, and none of that really is it's not as popular in culture at the moment to just exercise the mind as such, or to work on the mind or prep the mind or relax the mind or de-stress the mind and stuff like that. And even I remember in a school, they were talking about, for the induction night, that they were doing this thing called Stop the Clock, where twice a day they were that there's going to be an alarm or a timer that went off in the classroom, and the kids had to just stop what they were doing and put everything down, close their eyes and meditate for a couple of minutes and think about what they've done and what they want to do. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. And a year later, I checked in to see were they still doing this, and they weren't. But I thought that they were on the cusp of something so right, because I think if this started from an early age, you know, in the schools, the knock-on effect that would have for people in their 20s when the struggles, you know, they can kick in the teens, but they also really kick in when people become young adults, that they have this, that they can just switch into straight away, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good point you're bringing up, because at one level, we know, and like, I'm sure everybody listening to the podcast understands that at one level, we kind of sense something's out of balance here. There's something I'm not paying attention to. I'm reading the self-help books. I'm listening to the ideas on social media about how to, you know, have a happy life.
Yeah.
But I'm not feeling myself a deep and consistent feeling of peace and happiness in my life. And so at one level, like you're saying, there's kind of, yeah, I'm paying attention to my physical well-being, and I'm eating well, I'm sleeping well, I'm exercising well, and I am feeling better within myself and about myself. But that's not necessarily consistent. There are many, you know, overwhelmed, depressed, elite athletes who've dialed in their physical well-being at a level none of us could possibly even understand. And yet they really struggle with their mental and emotional well-being. I saw this story on a Olympic swimmer, but he was saying that what drove him in becoming a silver or gold medalist at the Olympics was feeling he's never enough. And so he's driven by this feeling he's never enough, and kind of dialed in that physical well-being at such a high level, but still was suffering with, you know, very deep depression and I think even suicidal ideation, because you're paying so much attention to the external aspects of your life. In this case, as you say, your physical well-being. You're not giving any attention to the one thing that really drives your sense of purpose or happiness or meaning in life, which is your own mind, how you feel within yourself. And not just, you know, temporarily, but deeply and consistently. So to your point about, you know, people aren't turning in, that's clear, isn't it? When we talk about this, people think it's really abstract, really inaccessible, talking about the mind. I don't understand that. Well, you do understand you have one. So let's start there.
Yeah.
And the methods to actually continually improve the experience of the quality of your mind and the experience of peace and happiness and the good qualities of your heart, such as love, compassion, wisdom, acceptance, gratitude, that can increase your peace and happiness. Those methods to do that have been around for over 2,600 years, just within the Kadampa Buddhist tradition that I train in, or the Buddhist tradition. So those methods have been around for a long time, and people have relied on them to accomplish everything I'm talking about here, everything we're talking about here. People have relied upon them for centuries, millennia. What we need to do really is, and that's why I'm doing more of these podcasts, is to really strip away everything that's getting in the way of people thinking this is abstract or in some way not for me, I'm not a spiritual person, to get down to the brass tacks of how do you implement this into your life? And maybe from an early part in your life, like you say, a simple meditation practice that you can build on over time, a simple space in your day to rest your mind. We all have to do that at times, to step back from life, to rest your mind, to gather your thoughts, to see things in perspective so that you can reset and course correct on a daily basis, living from a deeper sense of meaning and purpose in your life, living from more of a peaceful mind and a good heart that gives rise to a deeper, more consistent peace and happiness in daily life. That's what we all need to start to have the conversation around, because it's like this. I heard this saying the other day. It's like this fire hose of information on social media. We're just spraying it around. Everyone's struggling with their mental health and everyone's struggling with life, and we all need to be happier. Yeah, but how? How are we going to do that personally? Do we have to wait till we have a mental health crisis and then see a psychologist or therapist? Or can we be our own therapist on a daily basis? Can we create a space to step back, to connect to some space in the mind so we're not so easily triggered, and actually to more deeply reflect on how we could live better today? And as I say, within this Kadampa Buddhist lineage that I train within, it's accessible to anyone, Buddhist and non-Buddhist alike. Within that is everything you need to do, or everything you need to be able to engage in that daily reflection, to be able to live with more love, more wisdom, compassion in daily life, so that actually the more you do that, the more you notice you have this more natural and consistent inner peace or peace of mind. And as a result of that, you're able to maintain that peace of mind and happiness more and more throughout your day and life. Now you've restored a healthy balance, and you get on with, growing your career, growing your company. You get on with taking care of your family, improving your health and well-being, just this healthy middle way between the both. As you say, most people are not giving any attention to it. In fairness to them, because they don't even know what they're supposed to be doing, never mind give attention to it.
True, but I think there's so many people think they're doing good, but they're allowing themselves to be distracted so much. So, even if I think back of years ago, I remember even people would go to church and they would just sit there. Some people would sit there for an hour and just let the mind wander. Maybe they'd be trying to just work through something, but it was a form of meditation for them. And as you said, like, people need to do something daily. And I see people, if they go out walking the dog, they still have the phone and they're working away on the phone, or they're making phone calls. Like, they're not even allowing the walk with the dog as a time to calm the mind. And yesterday I went to the GP just to get my annual bloods done, and I forgot my phone. I left it in the car. So I went in, and there was this elderly lady sitting in the waiting room, and she had the phone out, and she was just watching TikTok videos, the volume was way too loud, and she laughing away to herself, and then she was typing things. And I remember my previous visit in there that there was an elderly gentleman who had no phone, surrounded by people with phones, and he was struggling to breathe, and my heart went out to him. But so I was just in this waiting room with this elderly lady who was just on the phone, so conversation completely cut off. And then this younger university student came in then, and like with a huff, and she was having a bad day, and she came in, and just the energy changed in the room, and she sat down and she took out the phone, and it was constantly tap, tap, tap with the shellac fingernails that she had. Tick, 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 tick. That's all you could hear. And I couldn't wait to get out of the waiting room. But I remember, when my parents used to bring me to the doctors, and you'd be in the waiting room, and there was no phones, and there was conversations taking place in the waiting room, or there'd just be silence, but it'd be nice, and everyone was respectful that someone was in there for a genuine reason, so letting people have their space. But it's the thing of, there's no time to not be distracted. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, when there's those moments that we have during the day of just calming the mind, the phone has to come out of the pocket, or as I said before in the last podcast, the radio has to come on, or something. Like, even when we have the opportunities, we don't allow it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the challenge we're all facing, because these tools are designed to keep your attention on them all the time.
Yeah.
And so we have to, at some point, develop a deeper wisdom. Is this really leading me to a better place over time? I mean, do I feel increasingly at peace with myself, at peace with others, at peace with life? Do I feel genuinely happy as a result of how I'm investing my time? So we have to really, and it's hard.
People say they do it because it's just to get that escape for 10 minutes during the day, just to tune out.
And that's it. What we're looking for is just this temporary hits of moments of relief. And what are we getting relief from? Our particularly uncomfortable, heavily distracted minds. How are we getting that relief? By distracting ourselves from it, which of course just increases the distraction in our mind, and therefore we need more relief, and we need it more consistently. So that's understandable that people are turning there, but what we need to do at some point is really develop some deeper wisdom that says, I need to pause here and ask myself, is this really working for me? Is the way I'm living my day and my life, is it giving me a deeper sense of meaning, a deeper sense of purpose, a deeper sense of joy? And if it's not, I really need to press the pause button. I need to take windows in my day, at least if it's even just 15 to 20 minutes in the morning. I need to pause my life. Maybe in meditation, settle the mind, I step back, I connect to peace of mind. I connect to that potential to live with that deeper peace and happiness. And then I start to reflect on my life with greater wisdom and compassion through that kind of training, so that I know when I take that window in my day and in my life, every morning I can reconnect to that peace, that potential within me to live that way more and more. I can reset how my day goes ahead. If it was a tough day yesterday, I can course correct so that I'm more in alignment with my values. I'm more in alignment with the way I want to live my life. And so I'm creating that window, as opposed to that window being suffocated as soon as you wake up by picking up your smartphone and going on TikTok. And I'm not criticizing anybody for that, but what I'm encouraging everyone to do is really have some kindness and compassion directed towards yourself. You need to give yourself space in a world that's suffocating your space and time, and in a culture that's designed to take away your attention from everything you're doing.
But we were forced to have that window back in March 2020. And people, and I know it wasn't rosy for everyone, but there are people who look back on that early period of it with fondness when we thought we were just in for 2 weeks and we'd be back to work again. You know, the weather was fantastic, but people just stopped the clock. The whole world kind of stopped. People went for walks. People played games, board games at home. People started baking again. And it was that forced window that did so much good. And that actually led to what they called the Great Resignation, when people decided, actually, I don't want to do what I'm doing anymore. I'm leaving. Or, do you know, I'm moving now. I'm going to buy somewhere in Spain, or I'm going to go traveling, or, you know, a lot of people made big life decisions during that period because they're forced to stop. And during that period, they had time to think, you know. And it even reminds me of when you were in England in your job, which you spoke about in episode 50, and you took that year out. But then you ended up making a big life decision from having that space of being out of the corporate world for a year. And it's by really when we actually force ourselves to stop, that's when we can actually find what we want to do, which leads again into purpose.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, is if you're consciously making a free and conscious choice to pause, that's much better. Like, we're forced to stop in March, and we're forced to stop in the pandemic. And after a while, people got actually quite stressed and agitated and anxious being at home all the time and not having to keep themselves busy all the time, because we're not paying attention to those tendencies within the mind that basically have in the past been the reason why we're always distracted. Is because we can't sit, as you were saying earlier on, we find it hard to sit with ourselves without distracting ourselves from ourselves. So it was true, you know, that initial kind of sense of, okay, everybody pause, slow it right down. And we all felt that at the beginning, like, wow, I don't have to be rushing around like a headless chicken all day. But then the headless chicken comes back and we're starting to rush around again, even when we're just at home, like, you know, obsessing about making sourdough bread or something. No, I'm joking. But I think, although probably, and then what we learn is through that period is, yeah, that's great. So I get a bit of a sense of how it could be different. But unless I'm consciously making the time, creating the time in my daily schedule to make that part of my way of life, to restore that healthy balance between external developments of my life and inner development. Unless I'm consciously making the choice to do that, very soon my mind is going to keep going out. And at some point, something's going to happen, like a global pandemic, and I will reveal, or I will see myself, even if I don't see it clearly, I'm just as vulnerable as everyone else to these changing circumstances, because I'm not giving space and time to that. So when we make that choice, we step back and we press pause, we actually start to really begin to connect with, what does a deeply purposeful, meaningful life mean for me? And we have the space, we have the window to reflect on that. And then we start to see that.
Well, what sort of like questions should one ask themselves to, you know, when they're trying to find what their true purpose is? How, you know, can you guide us in that process of someone actually looking within to find the purpose?
Yeah, totally. I would say for anyone who's wanting to engage in that, I want to step back from my life and I want to reflect more deeply. And what does a meaningful life mean for me? What does a life of purpose mean to me? So I would encourage anyone, if you're going to do that, you need to give yourself some space and time to just sit. Maybe do some meditation at the beginning. And again, if people can use the meditation we'll use at the end of this podcast, they can use that as a way to just clear the mind, declutter the mind, connect to a sense of peace and potential within your mind. Because you know, if you've ever done those exercises and you're stressed, you think, right, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to reflect on my life. I'm going to see what's meaningful and purposeful. By the end of it, you just feel profoundly discouraged and depressed because your mind is all over the place and you're thinking, I'm doing none of this. So we need to step out of that frame of mind, that heavily burdened, overly busy, grasping at, I need a sense of meaning and purpose to my life. What we need to do is just step back, maybe create a morning where you can just sit down, do a bit of meditation first, and then really reflect on what does purpose really mean. And I would say, if we explore again, purpose for everyone is different in the way they express it. But I would say at the heart of it is, if what you're doing in your life or how you're living your life gives you a deep feeling of meaning, if that's what your experience is, and in some way what you're doing or how you're living your life is increasingly of benefit to others, I would say that's what it really means to have a deep sense of purpose and joy in your life. So it has to feel meaningful to you, and not just like somebody saying it's meaningful. Oh, you've got such a meaningful life, Garry, running GK Media. It's such a meaningful life. But if it doesn't feel that way to you, it isn't that way for you. And also, is what you're doing or how you're living your life being of increasing benefit to others? Then you have this real sense of purpose to my day in life. So let's just look at the meaning bit for somebody who wants to reflect on this. We may say, well, I have a meaningful life. You know, I do these things, I do this thing, I even help other people. But does it feel meaningful to you? Not whether it's supposed to be, or you read it in maybe a self-help book or something. This is how to live a meaningful life. Does it feel like it in your heart? And I would say a meaningful life, everyone can come to discover for themselves, is when you feel at some level intuitively and deeply in your heart that what you're doing or how you're living is leading to what you deeply want. And as you and I have talked about before, what we all really want is just to be happy.
Yeah.
And I don't mean be happy, fleeting moments of pleasure. I mean, just feel deeply contented and happy. It's what everybody really wants. If what you're doing is leading to you experiencing that, it will feel meaningful to you, irregardless of what you're doing. I was saying this the other day in a class when I was teaching in Dublin, and I said, many years ago, I remember being on Connolly Station with my mother. And you know, in the days when you used to be able to smoke on Connolly Station, and we'd just come back. I think it was around Christmas, because I used to come back from London around Christmas, and there was this kind of little old man just kind of walking around, just cleaning up the cigarette butts, as he used to have to do in those days, and he was just sweeping them up. And I remember my mother looking at him and just saying, "He looks so happy. He looks so happy." And there was all these stressed out shoppers with their Brown Thomas bags and Arnott's and Boyers probably back then. And, you know, they're just looking so stressed and overwhelmed. And she said, he just looks so happy. And why is that? Is it what he's doing that's making him happy? Or is it where he's doing it from? Like if he's doing it from a place of kindness or love or compassion for the people in his life or the people on the platform, then he's happy. So for him, that task feels meaningful. That way of life, that what he's doing, how he's living his life feels meaningful. And for the people who are stressed out and overwhelmed with all the shopping because they've kind of run their credit card up again and working hard to get all that money, you may say that your job is meaningful to you, but if it doesn't feel it, you need to address it. So a meaningful life, I would say, is when you know that what you're doing in your heart gives you a feeling of meaning, meaning over time, you're feeling more at peace with yourself, more content, more happy. So it's much more about where you're doing it from.
And people will probably see that in you as well.
Totally. And they'll feel it, won't they? They'll feel it. If somebody walks into a room and they're genuinely at peace with life and they're genuinely happy and genuinely energized around what they're doing and what they're trying to accomplish in the world. If somebody walks into, we all feel that. That's an inspiration. You know, some people look to people like that as the inspiration for what they could be. But of course, we can all be that, especially if we're engaged in this process of inner development that enables to become that person more and more every day. So that's the first aspect of it, I would say, Garry, is meaning. It's it's really important to understand nobody can say to you, your life is meaningful or meaningless. Only you know. And you'll know if within yourself, the way you're living your life is leading to a deeper peace and happiness. And as I say, that will only really come if at some level you're consciously cultivating that capacity or potential we all have for that peace and happiness. And meditation, I would say, is a perfect method for that. But the other flip side of that we were saying earlier on is, I think, again, meaning really is about less what you're doing and where you're doing it from. The other sense of purpose, or the other aspect.
How do you mean by that?
So in the sense of, if I'm doing it from a completely self-centered place and it's just about me and I'm a bit narcissistic and I don't really care about anybody else and I'm a bit of a bully, and if I'm living my life from that place, even if I'm externally super successful and I've got a lot of wealth, which of course there are a lot of people like that in our world, it will feel utterly meaningless. So going back to that example you were explaining earlier on, where I've met so many people who are incredibly wealthy. I'm not saying they're self-centered or narcissistic. They might be just struggling with high levels of stress and anxiety and burnout. And I meet them and they look on the outside just so wealthy and successful, but inside they're broken. There's no inner wealth. They're impoverished internally. And so if your approach to your life is doing it from that place of anxiety, stress, burnout, or some kind of self-centered narcissistic approach, it's all about me. If your life is coming from that place in your heart and that's how you're living your life, it will feel meaningless. Why? Because you're not going to be at peace and you're not going to be happy. Unless you feel you're accomplishing that deeper wish, which everybody has in their hearts, to just be happy. If you're not doing that, then you're going to feel it's meaningless. Whereas if you are doing that, it will feel meaningful no matter what you're doing in your life. So it's not about, to your question, what you do. It's where you're doing it from, a peaceful mind and a good heart of kindness, compassion, empathy, acceptance, as opposed to a narcissistic, self-centered mind that just makes you feel miserable.
So it's more about what you're doing for yourself internally is having a knock-on beneficial effect for others.
Totally. And that's the thing. If you're engaged in that daily reflection and daily contemplation and meditation, so you're giving yourself that little window in the morning, what happens is you're continually cultivating that wisdom, that kindness, that compassion, that acceptance through this engaged process with your heart, with your mind, that's enabling you to transform how you view yourself, how you view others, and how you view life. As a result of that, you're living from more of a peaceful mind and a good heart, a more resilient mind, a more flexible mind that's able to accept and work with the challenges of life. So you're living from that place in your heart, and your life is just simply flowing out of that. It's more like a state of flow where you're just naturally. And then, of course, as a result of that, the other flip side of purpose is you notice that your activities, what you're engaged in, is increasingly of benefit to others. You have this bigger vision for your life. Yeah. Like you're running this organization here and you're trying your best to live it from a place of kindness, empathy, compassion, wisdom, guiding the organization and the people to a good place over time. That gives you a greater sense of meaning and purpose, as opposed to I'm just doing it for myself and the money, which doesn't give us that feeling. So as you start to establish where you're living from, and you're finding that deeper peace and happiness within yourself, and you're living from kindness, empathy, compassion, wisdom, resilience. As a result of that, your vision for what your life's about and what you're doing, it's about, yeah, of course it's about you too, but it's about your family, it's about your friends, how can I make their lives better? Then it's about where you work, it's about your organization. Gradually it can become about the world. How can I make a positive contribution to the world? Now that's a powerful way to wake up every day, with that sense of meaning and purpose to your day. But how are you going to get there? That's the point. We can talk about this all day long, as you know, Garry. How are we going to get there, though? Unless we do that gentle daily work that enables us to align with those higher values, to align with that way of life, and to live more consistently, more mindfully that way throughout our day and life, then your purpose continually expands. Your sense of energy around that continually expands.
And you say your purpose continually expands, but does your purpose change? Like, is your purpose today going to be so different in 10 years' time? Or is it what you're saying there, that your purpose is a core, but it just, the branches open up and blossom more?
Yeah, I would say definitely. That's a really good point you bring up. I'd say it just continually expands. So again, I would say like a real sense of purpose and energy around your life is when you move beyond yourself. It becomes a bigger sense of not just about me. It's about me too, obviously, as we said earlier on. But also it's about my family. How are they? There's more love for my family, more compassion. As I'm cultivating those values, those virtues within my heart through an active, dynamic process of engaging in meditation, applying those insights and living from those insights in my day and life. So instead of just thinking it's all about me, it's like, no, it's about my family and friends now too. Now it's about my work colleagues. Actually, now it's about my world, because everyone deserves respect. Everyone deserves love and compassion. Over time, we can see that. So your purpose just gets bigger. So is what I'm doing, say, for example, is what you're doing with GK Media, is it making a beneficial influence in this area alone? Can it make an even increasingly beneficial influence in the lives of others? That sense of purpose is hugely energizing and incredibly liberating. Instead of fixating on me all the time, we think, no, we. That's the way we should be thinking.
But even from doing or having these conversations, it's when you get the feedback, from people saying, you know, I loved that episode because it did X, Y, Z, or it made me think about da 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 da, and you feel, yeah, there's some good coming from this. It's beneficial. Calmness is.
Can I just go to that point, because I think you bring up a really good point there. What you're talking about is your experience, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Not their experience. So you know where you're coming from. I'm trying to share information that will help people.
But yeah, I do maybe selfishly feel good because I know the time and effort I've put in has benefited someone.
That's not selfish, though.
Yeah.
You're doing nothing selfish whatsoever. What I'm saying is your sense of meaning and purpose is there already. There's nothing selfish about it feeling good to you. It should feel good to you. And if it's coming from a place of empathy and kindness and compassion and want to share something that helps people, that's why you're energized to do it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be sitting here with me. You've got many other things to do. You can go down and have a latte down the road. But you see what I mean? We have to get beyond the idea that when we're doing it for us, it's selfish. Not if you're doing it from the right place. And you're doing it from the right place. How can this podcast be of use to others? I mean, that is the way you do these podcasts. You're always trying to share stuff that in some way positively influences the lives of others. That's why you have an energy to do it. It's nothing selfish about it. Actually, it just simply is coming from, I would say, and the way I know you is from a kindness and a compassion and an empathy that knows that people need to hear these kind of things. And whatever the topic you're looking at, it's always geared towards, I hope this helps people today. We need to be really, really encouraged around that and thinking, that's what's energizing me, this bigger vision. I'm doing this to in some way benefit others, and that in some way it lands in their life. There's nothing selfish about it.
Great, love it. I feel much better now. But when I was listening back to the podcast as well that we did before, we were probably a year into the Russia and Ukraine, the war taking place there and so on. And I was just talking about, you know, it's a very stressful time for people at the moment, you know, with war, and there seems to be so much hatred out there and so on. And little did we know that a year later, things were just getting worse. Things really seem to be becoming more black and white than ever. And, you know, there's the conflict going on between Israel and Gaza and Hamas and all that as well. And that again has created a very black and white scenario for a lot of people. And again, I know it's all about perspective of how you perceive things, and we're constantly polluted by negative mainstream content from the media as well, which really would bring the most sanest, happiest, calmest person down a certain few degrees. But can we just reflect a little bit on just calmness again with, I hope, you know, if we're sitting here again this time next year, that the world is a lot more at peace. But what can we do during all this as well that we're currently still in that appears to be getting worse each week?
Yeah, and it definitely does, doesn't it? Yeah. Especially at the moment. I think there's a beautiful quote that for me always, whenever even I say it, it touches my heart and really guides my life, actually. My teacher, Geshe Kelsang Gyatso Rinpoche, one of the great Buddhist meditation masters of our time, originally from Tibet, he, in this book, in this really accessible book that I've often shared these ideas with people, family and friends and so forth. He says in it, he says this very simple line, without inner peace, outer peace is impossible. And that's the thing. We all want to live in a peaceful, harmonious, conflict-free world. But if we're constantly in conflict with ourselves and we have no sense of peace or harmony or good qualities of the heart consistent within our mind and in our life, then how can we possibly hope to have a more peaceful and harmonious world? So think about that. We're looking around at the world at the moment and we're thinking the world is out of control, it's quite chaotic. You know, as you say, we're hoping for a better outcome next year, but are we really any confidence that we're going to have a better outcome next year, or is it even going to get worse? And I think you've said before, it's you look at social media and there's a lot of hatred, there's a lot of, racism, there's a lot of bigotry, and people are just expressing really, in reality, the struggles with their own mind. The reason why there's so much conflict in the world is because we're so in conflict with ourselves. Again, go back to the beginning. of this conversation, why are we so in conflict with ourselves? Because we're constantly focused out there trying to control things, control people, control situations, control countries, and we're not giving any tension or energy to really working with our mind and beginning to let go of the tendencies towards anger, hatred, greed, ignorance, which we can do. We can all become free of these if we engage in that daily process within a meditation practice and that window of space and time for that deeper reflection that helps you really let go of what's burdening your mind and what's causing chaos in your mind and chaos in our world. So how can we ever get to a place where we have a peaceful, harmonious world unless we take it all the way back to ourself? So when we feel discouraged and depressed about what we see in the world, it's totally understandable people feel that because we feel there is no hope. It's getting worse. Okay, well, the very least we can all do today is start with ourselves. If we start to do that daily work, we start to feel a sense of, I know I can live with more kindness, less anger, less greed, less ignorance. I know I can live with more love, more compassion, more empathy, more acceptance, more gratitude. I know I can do that. I can't change the world today. Nobody can. But I can change my world, my inner world today. And then I can encourage and inspire my family, my kids, my friends, that we could all live this way more and more day to day, just through my example, through them feeling my example, as opposed to me preaching at them what they should do. And then our kids, our family, our partner, our friends, they all start to feel that energy. And then they think, oh, maybe I'll try a little bit of that. And then they start to try a little bit, you know. I remember years ago when I used to go and stay with my brother. She'll kill me for this now, but my niece Holly, she used to sit outside my room. When I'd stay, my brother would stay in the spare bedroom, and she'd sit outside. She was only about 4 or 5 at the time. And I'd be meditating in the morning as usual, and she would just sit outside meditating, waiting for me to come out. And I would walk out and she'd be sitting there, you know, in her meditation posture. And it's like, whatever. I mean, not that I'm a great example or anything like that, but I think it's just the energy of that. She felt a connection with that. And so just through us being the example as best we possibly can to our family and friends, we start to kind of create ripple effects. And so instead of feeling overwhelmed by this world, there's nothing I can do about it, we could start with ourselves, let that ripple into our family and friends, and maybe they start to take on some of that. And maybe that starts to have a ripple effect. I mean, there's only 5 million people in the South. It's not going to take us that long. At least Ireland could be an ambassador for peace.
Yeah, at least it's trying to do something positive anyways.
At least. And then at the very least, then we begin to understand. Do you see what I mean? We begin to put context around what's happening in the world. The reason why it's all out of control, it's not that people are inherently evil. They're struggling with out of control minds. So it's a lovely kind of understanding within the Buddhist lineages. There's no one inherently good and there's no one inherently evil. There are either people who are struggling with the level of ignorance that enables them or causes them to engage in crazy action, or there are people who are developing a deeper wisdom that enables them to become a more peaceful, positive, beneficial influence in their own lives and the lives of others. So within this lineage, I think you and I may have talked about this before, what you discover through meditation is everybody has a potential within their heart for all these qualities we're talking about today. Love, compassion, wisdom. We already have a degree of it. You know, you have love for your family, you have compassion for your family. It might not be perfect. Or if you're anything like me, it's not consistent enough and it should be more consistent. But it's there. We all have this potential. Buddha called it our Buddha seed or Buddha nature. Potential within everyone for deeper peace, happiness and good qualities of the heart. All we need to do is activate that potential, cultivate that potential in a daily meditation session, and then living from that more and more in our daily life. And then we start to become that person more and more. We develop confidence. Everyone else has the same potential. No matter how crazy they are today, no matter what actions they're engaged in today, they have this limitless potential for love, compassion, wisdom, kindness. Now, I'm not saying that you walk around with rose-tinted glasses. You're very aware of what's going on in the world. And you're very aware that's not going to change unless people start to do something with their hearts, with their minds. And so there's a degree of acceptance of that, not resignation to that. Acceptance that that's the reality that people are facing. and a sense of compassion that wants to in some way change ourselves so we can encourage change in the world, and then over time be able to share those experiences with the world so that whoever's listening, especially on this podcast, they can begin to think, maybe I can change too. Then you don't feel so hopeless. There's always something you can do, and it always starts with you.
Yeah. And in fairness, I don't practice Buddhism, but wouldn't the world be a wonderful place if everyone just did? How different the world would be today. MeditationIreland.com is the website for the Tara Kadampa Meditation Centre in Dublin. If you're in Dublin, treat yourself to actually head over there. And obviously, I'm sure they have to arrange they just don't pop up out of nowhere. But try and arrange to go in there for a class. It's an amazing experience. And when I went in there was no one in there. It was just you and me, but it's still the vibe and the energy I got from the place was really filling. I loved it. Like, there was just a beautiful energy in there. But you do classes online as well. And there's different tiers of membership that people can apply for as well, and decide which area they want to go down, or whether it's the study area and so on. So meditateinIreland.com is the website. Go and check it out, and you'll get more information about what Adam and the other volunteers are doing there at the Meditation Centre in Dublin. But as we come to an end, can we do a meditation?
Absolutely. But I also want to say thank you so much, Garry, for inviting me back. It's been an absolute joy as always. One of my favourite conversations is my conversations with Garry Kelly.
Oh,
so
thank you.
I really deeply enjoyed it. Lovely way to spend a Friday morning.
Well, thank you. And thank you again, because I know you were recording all day yesterday, but I really love the time that I get to spend with you. And unfortunately, today is good, but the last few times I'm always exhausted, because even when we did the first podcast, again, I traveled back from Dublin after a long, long day. And it was funny, I was only thinking about this morning when I was having a shower. I was so exhausted when I came and met you here in our studio in Galway, which I think was like 6:30 that evening. And we were here till 8:30 that night, and I came out full of energy and full of enthusiasm and excitement. So you just have this amazing energy about you. So I hope more and more people, get to witness that, whether it's through listening to you on other podcasts, attending your classes, meeting you in person, whatever. But look, you're doing amazing work, Adam, and it's my pleasure to sit down and chat with you, because I get so much from it.
Thank you, sir. Absolute joy as always. Thank you.
Thank you.
So to begin this meditation, just gently and partially close your eyes. I love to allow some light in. Allowing your back to be nice and straight but relaxed. And just breathing naturally and gently through the nostrils. Just allow the breath to ebb and flow. You can just begin this meditation session with a heartfelt wish to use this time in meditation to find a deeper peace and happiness within your own heart, within your own mind. So that brings increasing benefit to yourself and others. And then we make a conscious choice to just let go of the day, to let go of the world out there. And turn our focus and attention fully inwards. Allowing your attention to gently rest at your heart center. Area around the center of your chest at the level of your heart. Just allow your awareness to rest at your heart. And as you turn inwards and come to rest at your heart, you'll become aware of the various thoughts, feelings, and distractions that are rising from the mind. Most importantly, don't fight them, don't follow them, just let them be. And instead pay attention to the breath entering and leaving through the nostrils. As you relax and let go of paying attention to anything else. In particular, on each relaxed inhalation and exhalation, just allow your attention to move closer and closer to the subtle sensation of breath as it ebbs and flows at the rim of your nostrils. Allowing your attention to come to rest there on the breath as it enters and leaves. You'll notice as you try to focus on the breath, the mind just wants to wander to thoughts and distractions, to get caught up in them, lost in them. When this happens, don't worry at all, it's just entirely normal. And instead, when you're aware you're getting caught up in distractions, remind yourself, relax and return to the breath. Relax and return to the breath. Each time coming back in this very relaxed way, allowing your attention to settle on the breath. Until you experience this gradual settling within the mind, increasing inner peace or peace of mind. Like the waves of the thoughts and distractions dissolving back in to the calm, clear ocean of your mind. Just come back to and remain with breath. Allow everything else to happen naturally. Now slowly and gently, just gradually move your attention away from the breath and become aware of how you feel. particularly be aware of any degree of inner peace or peace of mind that's arising at the moment. Just relax and enjoy that peace moment to moment. Try to recognize within that experience of inner peace your potential to change, to find a deeper peace, a deeper happiness, through continually engaging with your meditation practice. We can see through this meditation that just peace arises naturally when we let go of what's bothering our mind. We begin to access a natural source of peace, and therefore happiness within the mind. And in this experience we come to see and recognize our potential for deeper peace and happiness within. Try see this through your own experience in this meditation. And in this way, set a heartfelt intention for the day ahead. I'm going to live from this peaceful potential within my heart, more and more throughout my day and my life. Let my life flow from that peace, that increasing happiness within my mind. And finally, we mentally dedicate all the positive energy from this meditation, so it leads to good results for ourselves and others. By thinking, through all this positive energy, may I and others find deeper peace and happiness within our hearts, within our lives. We can open our eyes and arise from meditation.